DesignFreaks podcast. Hi. This is a show at the intersection of music and graphic design, of music and visual art. I'm Clarita. I'm your host. Happy Lunar New Year. It is now mid-February in the year of our Lord the Dragon, 2024. We made it. Here we go. What could go wrong? I'm back in Seattle now, but this is a very special episode where I got to record in person with an Austin poster designer named Fez Moreno, and I got to meet him and his cat Rocky, and you'll meet him too in a minute. I got to go to his house, check out his music studio. It's so funny. His house, like a lot of the houses in Austin, there's a certain like Rambler style house. His house looked exactly like the one I grew up in, except for the yard was nice. And there was like cool stuff on the walls inside. But anyway, it was kind of trippy and very interesting. And I'll get to that interview in a second. But first, I wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, please share with other vinyl and design freaks. Follow the Instagram. I'm at _DesignFreaks podcast. And you can find everything in the link tree there, DesignFreaksPodcast.com. Subscribe, give a thumbs up on the YouTube. As always, for other cool and interesting shows, check out ruinousmedia.com. So this is such a great, inspiring interview. Part of the interview was done with the cat, Rocky, kind of hanging out with us, which was really cool. And at one point, the cat does jump on the equipment. So there is just for a second, it may sound weird in the audio, but if you're watching the YouTube, you'll see. Speaking of the YouTube, if you watch, you'll see I tried to include as many poster designs as I could while we're talking. I just have the graphics up on the screen. I also include photos and some footage of the light shows that we're talking about. But Fez Moreno has done hundreds of posters. And so do check out his work online as well. But I tried to include as much as I could. Here we have one of his poster designs behind me right now. This is for a Ty Segall show. Also, I included music from his band, Space Machine, from their single Cosmic Mystery. And he has several different bands on Bandcamp. I will link to them in the show notes. Space Machine is one, and his other band that he plays multiple drums, I promise. And that band is called Intensive Care Unit. And I believe he's had many other music projects as well. Enjoy my chat with Fez
Moreno. Thanks for tuning in.
So, hello, Fez. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me into your music studio. Listeners, I'm in Austin, Texas, my hometown, to do lots of things. But one of the awesome things I get to do while I'm here is interview Fez Moreno. So thank you for letting me into your studio and talk to you today.
Yeah, of course.
So I found your work on Instagram, and it looks like you do some other kinds of design work on your merch page. Like, what is your primary artwork that you do?
I suppose my main thing I do is posters.
Well, your work is fantastic. It really caught my eye, and you've worked for some really great festivals. We'll get into that in a minute. I wanted to let people get to know you a little bit. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Florida, and South Florida, the suburbs, the swamp.
My condolences.
And I went to college in Orlando at UCF, and I went to film school there. And then I moved to Austin in 2012.
Did you want to make films?
Yes, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a cinematographer. So
was this also psychedelic influenced, the filmmaking?
I've been taking pictures since I was like maybe 15. Because I grew up skateboarding, and I broke my ankle really badly one time. And so I was out. I couldn't skate for about 6 months. And so I was like at the point where I was obsessed with skateboarding. So I just, as soon as I was able to get back out and walk and stuff, I started going to, shoot pictures of my friends when they were skating and filming them and stuff like that. and just making like videos and all that. And then we actually had a little website in high school of like where we put our like little skate montages and photos.
Aw.
And it was before YouTube and stuff, so
Uh-huh.
people were like pretty into it down in South Florida, and so I got really good at like
Whoa, that's a long time ago.
yeah, and I got a job as a photographer for the local skate shop, and so I would shoot photos with like fisheyes and flashes and stuff, and
Whoa.
I was getting really into that, and then I just decided I wanted to go to film school because I always liked movies, but yeah, so I just went to film school, and then the death of film happened, and the digital rise happened, and then by the time I graduated, the cinema world looked so different than what it was when I went to college, like 4 years before, where it was now you got to get into advertising and digital stuff, and it just didn't feel like art anymore to me, and there was no way to really make it, and so I decided to get into other kinds of things, and
We may have to repeat. That's okay. Hi. So yeah, now everyone can make a movie on their iPhone.
right. So that was also the kind of thing I just wanted to. I just realized that everyone's going to be able to do this thing, and it's the quality of the type of craftsmanship going into filmmaking and stuff is just going to decline, and I don't want to be part of that. I did start shooting music videos and stuff when I moved here. And then I did the light shows. I did psychedelic light shows.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's just all the different types of techniques that I learned how to do through my friend Curtis, who used to do drippy eye. He still does drippy eye projections.
Okay.
Based in Brooklyn at the time, and he's another friend from Florida, who was doing the lights for Psych Fest in 2012 and 13 and 14, and he like let me get in there with him and.
Oh, cool.
I
was
learned a
there.
lot. Oh, sweet. Yeah, we did the tent
Yeah.
those years, and then he showed me all the techniques, and he learned them from Joshua White, who was a
nice,
guy from
yeah.
the 60s who did the lights
Yeah.
at the Fillmore East, and
Sweet.
I got to meet him too, and so I did light shows for like about 8 years until like
Wow.
2020, and every once in a while I'll do one, but it's something that kind of like got me into the community here in Austin.
Yeah.
Because, I do
Everybody needs a light show.
Yeah, especially back in like 2012 when I was so fresh with all this knowledge from film school and visual stuff, and I wanted to just like bring it to like the community and like start doing light shows because there wasn't anybody really doing those things like that. And so we felt it was really important to bring it, and that's where it all started because I met my buddy Levi in 2013, and he was like, let's just throw shows and do light shows and you try to make a poster for it.
Yeah.
And we'll like do it under the name of the light show presents, and the light show is called Etherwave and it's still active. But so we started doing posters, throwing in like little events and stuff like that, and that's how it all started for me for like doing posters. It all transitioned from like needing to promote the events with the light shows and stuff.
I love that. As a lot of design comes from necessity and just needing to promote something else, and then comes the passion for the design part, right? Like,
Right.
And didn't you do a poster for the Fillmore?
I've done a couple, yeah.
Wow.
I'm working on one right now. Yeah.
Oh, nice. For what? Can you say?
I mean,
Okay.
I guess. Yeah, it's nothing like crazy. It's the Budos band, but
Okay.
I just recently did one for Hot Tuna's final
yeah.
electric show at the Fillmore.
These will be
Members-
up. I'm going to put these up as graphics while we're talking too
Oh, cool.
when I edit. So,
Okay.
are there sketches you can show us legally or?
Yeah, I can show you guys sketches.
Okay, yeah.
Not sketches of what I'm working on, but
Oh,
like of the
okay.
previous stuff.
I
Do you
always
want to
try-
see it?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so
Like-
I have one of my last sketch pads that I working on stuff.
I'm going to take pictures of all this and have it also up on the screen.
Okay.
So they don't really need to see this from far away. But tell me about your artistic origins. And obviously, drawing is usually the first thing people can do because as soon as you pick up a pencil or whatever, you can do it. But yeah, what came first for you? And did you go to art school? Are you self-taught?
So yeah, I guess I picked up. I just started drawing when I was a kid, just like out of boredom. And like people would say I was like pretty good or whatever, but I didn't really care. Like I was just doing it because I was just bored. And I remember my dad had like books of like military ships and planes and stuff like that. And I would try to draw the planes, like the B-27 bombers and like the F-16s and all that. And then like
I can see that with your work. It's
like
very
aircraft
detailed.
carriers. Like I started out trying to draw like really technical, like copying, like, you know, really technical stuff, like all the little stickers on the plane and stuff, and like the, you know, little details. And so it was just straight, just like it looked like almost like blueprints, like my original drawings. It's not
diagrams.
Like, just
I love
2D, like realistic, like things of like aircraft carriers and whatever, and just I was just obsessed with that. And then I was also obsessed with like sharks and whales and dolphins and stuff for a while, and I would just draw a bunch of sharks. And
do you have any of those old drawings?
I do at my parents' place. Yeah. I never took any art classes, and I never thought it was that great or nothing. I was just doing it out of boredom. And then by the time I was like 11, I completely stopped. I just switched to like playing video games and playing with friends. And whatever.
I wonder how many artists have been robbed of their skills because of stupid video games. Sorry. Oh, wow. I love this. Tell me what this is. Cuckoos?
Oh, this is a poster for a show that we're going to play next month.
Wow.
Or in like 2 weeks.
Oh, I saw the finished version of this.
That's a poster that I did for $50 because it's for ourselves and nobody has any money because the venues don't have money to pay. So
designers try not to work for $50.
The pay came out of the band fund. So
yeah.
So I did it out of necessity, as you said, because we want to promote the show in a cool way, and like I might as well just do a poster that I can kind of do quickly, but like put some soul and heart into it. And just simple stuff can be really powerful sometimes. But
very powerful. I love how a lot of your work can be complicated and maximalist, go from edge to edge, and the whole space is filled. But I also like the pieces of yours where there's breathing room.
Oh, yeah,
and like where your eyes can rest. That's really awesome.
I'm actually trying to work on that a lot. I'm trying to work on negative space and getting rid of doing so much symmetrical stuff. I feel like symmetry is a trap, and so is filling up space.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at some of the work of like Hapshash Poster Collective from the UFO days in London in the 60s. Nigel Weymouth and like Michael something. Okay. I'm not great with names, but I know I would recognize
the collective is probably.
But yeah, they did a lot of beautiful posters with just a lot of negative space and a lot of asymmetry, like no symmetry. Just like.
How do you achieve? Because I see you do analog first, right? You go to your sketch pad first, and then how are you able to achieve such perfect symmetry just by hand?
Oh, so I will take rulers and pencils and just draw grids on the paper, like in the scale of like what I'm working on. So if like I'm doing, 16 by 24, I'll do 16 centimeters by 24 centimeters and divide everything in like mathematically, and just use those as guides to,
Okay, so I am noticing an eye for a combination of textures, patterns on patterns on patterns, and vibrating colors. I love that. Have you ever done like blacklight poster art or?
I've done one blacklight poster. It's obviously silkscreen.
Yeah.
But it was for a show that I actually played with my electronic group in December of 2022. Yeah. Somebody got, that was headlining commissioned me to do the posters.
Yeah.
And for me to play. So it was cool because I got to like have my name on a poster that's like he printed and paid for,
Wow, that's nice.
And they had a black light at the venue, so like you could see it like glowing. And I haven't like looked at it other than that time under the black light, but it looks sweet. Well,
a lot of your work is the colors are vibrating so hard you kind of don't need it, like the red and green, back to back. I love that. I love that a lot.
I was talking to my buddy. Garrett, that is also local, that's been getting into poster art, and he's a big fan of like all that stuff. And we were talking about color last night, and just like how bright and saturated and like crazy colors to do. And then I was talking about like mixing like earth colors with like neon colors and stuff like that, like more faded colors with brighter colors, and not like just super bright. And we were talking about like using white like in like different types of white, like cream and silver and like mint and all that stuff. And
Eggshell.
yeah, all that. And so it's actually like we were talking about all this last night about negative space too and symmetry.
Nice. Wow. It's on the brain.
Yeah.
Where do you source your imagery from? Can you tell people? Is it all from your brain, or do you source some stuff?
Oh no, I most of the stuff is like, it's just a combination of like influences that, you know, I have so many, like a collection of so many images I've collected over the years on a folder.
Okay.
And it's just like a crap ton of images that like just have influenced me in some way that just I find cool. And then
where do you get them? You just find them here and there?
I would just go on these like rampages on Google and and like, what is it? The other thing now?
I have no
not
idea.
Etsy, but
Pinterest.
Pinterest. Yeah, now Pinterest is full of like crazy, like psychedelic, like I don't know, just cool old things. I've actually gotten a lot of inspiration from 1920s book covers from like the Art Nouveau.
Oh yeah,
which has like already been sourced by the people from the 60s. So I'm kind of trying to go back to the source of where they got their inspiration.
The Muka stuff.
And then, you know, I've noticed that this goes back to like Celtic stuff and Egyptian stuff and Greek stuff and like medieval stuff. And that's the beauty of like finding like this like language of like that it's expressed through borders and fonts and like design principles and stuff like that just seems to go way back to like the days of like, you know, Egyptian drawings on walls and stuff like that. You know, like even like Rick Griffin and stuff would in the 60s would do stuff with like scarabs and wings, like Egyptian imagery and you know, and like all those kind of like medieval borders and stuff like that. So I'm obviously really influenced by the 60s poster artists, but I also can see where they got their influence from and like
exactly
how they also would grab images and manipulate them and stuff like that. And I've always been little cautious about what I'm borrowing and twisting and all that stuff because I try to make most of my stuff originally, but like I do source a lot of stuff from like inspiration. And it's funny because I talked to Jim Franklin, the poster artist from Austin, and he's telling me like, you should steal, you should you know, you should steal, you should borrow, you should twist, you should just do it all. Like, who cares? And I was like, like he said Picasso would say that, and I was like saying like, okay, well, if he's saying that, then I should feel like less bad about stealing imagery, you know, like from like someone who's dead or something that never got exposure, like the old book covers and stuff like that, or old like the inner page of the old books, you know, the publishing people and those kinds of things. It was actually really beautiful illustrations and stuff like that I like borrow ideas from and stuff like that.
I'm going to pay more attention to those now. Yeah, that's cool. It's something that you may not notice, you know.
Yeah.
It's just there, maybe subconsciously.
But also Google Images sucks now, and so does like sourcing images from the internet, and you're going to find the same like 5 pictures everywhere of like anything you look for because like there's been a mass censorship of like really badass images on Google. It's all just like selling you stuff now. And if you type in like, you know, vintage sign or something, then you're just going to get all these like modern, like vintage looking things that are super cheap looking. And
it's
like
depressing. That's why we need to, as designers, be always a designer out in the real world, taking pictures of stuff, getting inspired out in the world. Yeah. And looking at old books still, you know.
And I do get inspiration from things I see on the street or, you know, like anything. It could just be like a blanket or.
Yeah. Quilt patterns are amazing. Yeah. I love it. So it's a lot of times non-design stuff will inform my inspiration too.
Right. And I noticed that a lot of the 60s artists like got a lot of influence from like architecture, like medieval architecture or Victorian architecture. So a lot of the posters from the SF days have a lot of the Victorian borders that were just like what the houses look like. And they just would copy like the frames and stuff that the houses had and like
from
the little
like doorways and stuff.
All that stuff and like the arches on windows and stuff like that.
Wow, I love that.
And I really think that's really cool because Victorian architecture is really beautiful, and I can see how like these guys were probably just tripping on acid in their Victorian home in San Francisco, and just like looking out the window and being like, "Whoa, that's cool! I'm gonna do something like that." You know, like
whoa. Okay, speaking of psychedelics, I got to ask you. There was a time when you were 18 that you did mushrooms and decided you wanted to draw again. What is that after your injury? and then you got inspired again. That's what I heard.
Well, my injury was when I was 14, and I never got fully back into skating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tried to get back into it when I was like 16, but then I did something to my ankle again, and it was just like, okay, I need to stop. And I started, I suppose, just I just taking photos and stuff, and making videos, and I guess when I did mushrooms for the first time when I was 18,
we don't have to talk about drugs either.
It was like
I can cut this out.
The next day I was at school and I was filling up my notebook with like crazy patterns and stuff, and like it was just all coming out of me, and I was just drawing like flying words and like and it just came out of nowhere, and then I just couldn't stop, and then my notebooks in school, like starting at the end of high school and going into college and stuff, it's just like the most insane doodles like for days, and I would just get lost, and it was not stuff that I was ever going to show anybody, but I have like entire notebooks filled with that stuff. When I saw the poster art of the 60s for the first time, I was like, wait, I get it. I get it. Like they like, like they were onto something there. And then so I just thought it was cool. And then I never thought anything else about it till I like had to make them for our little events that we were throwing, and just had one of those books with like the Fillmore art.
I've got that
big.
I almost brought it on the plane with me, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't need to bring my Fillmore book.
But anyway, that poster informed a lot of like my original like influences to, this is what I wanted to bring to the table. Because my original thing was like, wow, like all these posters suck. Like,
which posters?
The ones that were just like, there were people who were using 2012 to like promote events around town, and I was like, I'm not even a poster artist at all, but I could make better stuff on Photoshop, because I've been messing around with Photoshop since I was
That's
younger.
how so many people get started, by being like, even music too, of like, that's your band, I can do better than that, and getting inspired by being like, I can do better than that.
It's like, I can just get 3 vibrant colors, some weird font, and put it in some weird shapes and some weird central image, and then put that thing out and put it on poles around the city, because those were the days before Instagram and stuff. So we would go around putting like handbills in the coffee shops and putting like posters on all the poles around those big parts of town, and it was cool because you'd be driving around and you'd see like the posters on the poles and be like, that looks so badass, and that like eye catching,
that was
the whole point. It was just to be eye catching. There was nothing
from far away. That's the job of a poster,
right? To be like, what is that? Because all the other posters just look so mediocre, or so like just whatever,
or just a photo with text,
right? Mostly that's what we were like looking at,
band photo with the
just logos and stuff. And so it's like when you see something colorful and kind of just like makes you want to like be like, what is that? And like, oh, okay, I maybe want to check this event out. And that was the whole reason I started, is because I was like, we can do this, and we can't pay anybody, obviously, and like, who else is doing this kind of stuff? And there was like only maybe like 2 artists that I knew of at the time that were like, actually 3. There was like Jaime Subversa, who's still active, who's a badass, and his art is on a whole nother level. And
that's Jaime Zoo?
Yeah, Jaime Zoo.
Oh, he's amazing.
And then Matt Cliff, who I have like a couple of his posters that I got one of them from the Black Angels, because I was friends with those. I'm still
a lot of patterns. But, I see that.
They introduced me to his work, and then I was like, holy crap, this guy's stuff is amazing. And then Mishka Westel. And so Mishka was the first poster I ever bought. It was the Moving Sidewalks PsychFest 2013.
I've been wearing that tank top since that show. Like once a week at least. I'm telling you, I look at his work that
but
often.
I would see
so
like
good.
These artists, I would see their work, and I would be like, those people are like actual poster artists. That's so cool. And I would just I never thought I was going to end up doing this. This is never what I chose to do. It's just something that happened out of necessity almost.
But that is the choice. Like, nobody sits down and goes, I declare that I'm an artist. Like, it just happens, right?
I suppose.
Like, yeah.
I know there's people that go to school for it and set out
I
to
guess
do it.
the
and,
school part is the declaration. If you're in debt for something, it's like, you better do it. But yeah, I think that's not necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but I also don't want to bash academia because, like, I learned a lot in film school, and people say, oh, film school is bullshit or art school is bullshit. But actually, I learned so much and actually got to be exposed to, like, amazing work by people who I would have never heard about. And it inspired me so much that it even bleeds into my poster work. You know, like, I was really into, like, experimental filmmaking and, you know, like, that's how I learned about color and composition and space and depth and composition, everything. So, you know, it's a lot of what I do is, like, the cinematography just translated into vertical composition. And it's like storyboarding, but you're, like, creating shapes and stuff to make, like, a certain thing that using shapes to create certain, you know.
And there is movement to it.
Yeah, there has to be, you know. That's
I can
like,
see that.
it just happens naturally, though. You know, at one point you don't really start thinking about it too much because, like, you've studied it, so you know.
Oh yeah, I have a fine art degree, and I look at the people, the designers who don't have that background, and the work is different.
Right. So I think that's what I'm trying to say is that, like, if you go to school for something like that, I think it will definitely help you. And the other thing is that it might put you in a trap of, like, this is how it's done. And so, you know, I like that I don't have that background. So for me, it's always been, like, more intuitive. But I've studied, like, the work of people who I admire so much that I've like learned principles out of their work and stuff like that, you know.
Rules are meant to be broken, you know, tastefully, with reverence, I suppose.
I think the best is when rules are done in a really badass way, like that defies, like, the rules themselves, you know, like there's something that's done in such a kind of, like, proper way that it's like beyond a proper thing, you know. It's, like.
Well, that's what Barney Bubbles was a rebel within the psych art world because he didn't do the fluid lettering. He did, like, really precise fonts or letter typesetting and just, like, really almost like diagram type of lettering.
I'm striving towards making more precise type of work and stuff.
Have you ever considered teaching poster design?
I've never considered teaching. Okay. I don't think it's for me. I'm a very isolated person, and I don't work well, like, around others. Yeah.
It's an internal process.
Yeah. And I did go to a UT printmaking class or graphic design class, I think, like, 2 years ago, and I spoke for, like, an hour.
That's cool.
And they were really into what I was saying, and a lot of the stuff that I was telling them was just like, look how imperfect my work is when you look at it up close. Like, I brought a silk screen of something I made, and just like look at all these lines. They're not perfect. Like there's a lot of, like, messed up things. Like, I've never learned how to use Illustrator. Like all these things that they were just kind of like, wow, this is mind blowing. Like, you just went for it, and, like, you know, you don't even have an art background and stuff. And they were very talented artists. It's like what we're talking about, like, intuitive stuff versus, like, knowing something from, like, the rules. Yeah, from the background of things.
Who's this?
This is my kitty.
Hi. Let's get Kitty in here. This is very important. What's the kitty's name?
This is Rocky.
Hi, Rocky. Hi, baby. Oh, I'm sure the audience can barely see because
he's a rock and roll cat. He's very friendly.
How sweet. My cats would never stay on my lap. Hi, Rocky.
He just likes the spotlight, I suppose.
Oh, he wants scritches. Let me see.
But yeah, I guess, like, that whole thing about doing things, like, from, like, you know, your own, like, experience of doing something versus, like, someone teaching you, like, the proper way to do something. There's no, like, one that I would say is better than the other. You need to learn, even if you don't academically, like, get taught. You should still like educate yourself as much as you can. And that's one of the things I think is really important, is for us to understand the history of the things we do and, like, the, like, good examples of like the people who have done the things you're trying to do, like, and just study that because
that's why I have this podcast.
I think that people need to know the history of anything they're doing, you know? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I see a Simeon Cox Silver Apples poster up here. I heard that you have one of the same synths as Simeon had.
Oh,
What's
I have
that one?
this thing that I made it from test equipment.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to take a picture. I'll put that on the screen.
I did do like a light show for the Silver Apples in 2000.
In the tent?
2015 at the North Door.
Okay.
And I got to meet Simeon, and
I met him twiis.
He was super
Partially
nice.
because of that.
Oh, hell yeah.
So somebody was like, they were having their album signed after that show in the tent at Austin Psych Fest. I think it was the same one that same year as that art. And someone was like, hey, check out this lady's arm.
That's dope.
I wasn't even trying to meet him. I was too scared. And he was really sweet.
He's such a sweet guy. And,
Yeah.
And his wife was like, please don't do any stroboscopic stuff because he's got seizures and stuff. And I was like,
really?
Okay, noted, because I used to have this thing that spins that would make the thing flash. And,
wow.
Yeah, so,
hey, Kiki, I've got a Kiki here.
Yeah, so I got interested in that, you know, like around 2019. And during the pandemic, I got really into it. And I just sourced all these like old oscillators from the 50s. And
he had to make
eBay.
his own, right?
And I made this big tower. That's It's like I play it at sometimes at experimental music nights.
You haul that tower around?
It's 2 towers. Yeah, it's 2 pieces. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see the handles. That's cool.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's
I bet.
I need 2 people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
I want to see you fire that up, but maybe that'll be for a different day.
Yeah, I have
awesome.
I have a Bandcamp of the music.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll put that on the screen,
Has
and
nothing
it'll
to
be
do
in
with
the
design, but
it'll be in the show notes. I still put everyone's links to all their music in the show notes. So, do you listen to music while you're doing visual art?
Yeah, always. It's always been my main actually source of inspiration is music. You know, it's like I just put the music on and I just let it kind of guide me.
Is it always different, or yeah?
I listen to all kinds of music. There's no like, maybe like it centers more around like late 60s, early 70s kind of rock and roll, I suppose. But like really that's just a little more of what I listen to for the most part.
I have to take a picture of this cat. Rocky. Sorry, I'm just trying to document. This is so cute what's happening right now. Rocky, look at the camera. Look at the camera. Okay, so I got a couple questions from our mutual friend, Nick, Monster Nick. How do you say his last? Montrene. So he says. That's how you pronounce it. Nick wants to know a couple things. Nick says, if you could have a beer with an artist who inspired you who has died, who would it be?
Man, I think I've thought of this before, and I just feel like I can't answer that right now, but probably Dennis Hopper.
Ooh, really? He's kind of creepy IRL too, so that might. He's
I'm
alive?
Sure
Isn't he alive?
I'm not a girl, so I.
Is he alive though?
No, he died.
Oh, he died?
Yeah.
Where have I been?
I don't know. He died like 18 or something.
Oh
19.
Shoot. Okay. R.I.P. Dennis Hopper.
I don't know. I always really admired Dennis Hopper. Like I came from a filmmaking background, and he made one of the first like real like independent films, and Easy Rider, which like inspired me eventually get a motorcycle, and just like I just love his vibe, and like he was a photographer too, and he was just such a rad guy, and I like the balls that he had to do what he did, and such an interesting American artist. And it's not anything to do with design, but if I could have a beer with any designer like or poster artist, I would probably. I mean, I've hung out with Jim Franklin, and I still do. It's awesome. We drink beers and stuff, and like we talk about all this cool stuff, and he tells me stories about meeting Dali and all this stuff. But like, I don't know.
So you kind of already did it.
Sort of, yeah. That's kind of why I'm like, I don't know. I probably like want to talk to.
What about Fellini or something?
No, yeah, like Fellini. Like, but if designer, like I don't know, like I don't think I have a favorite designer.
Yeah, everyone knows what mine would be, but Okay, so what was the first poster you ever did, and what has changed between that one and your most recent poster?
The first poster I ever did was for an event that we called the Moon Age Daydream, and I believe it was like July of 2013 at Club de Ville, which was the old Cheer Up Charlie's.
Okay.
And nobody used to go to that place, and we're like, hey, can we book a weekend festival here? And we got this band from California called Mr. Elevator and the Brain Hotel, and all these other cool bands, and we had like a 2-day fest, and we had the light show Inside and Out, 2 stages. And it was like the first thing we ever did, and we put so much energy into that. And that was like 5 months after meeting each other. And then I made that poster for that. It was the Never Ending Daydream was the second part, which was like the second poster I ever made. And then I made another one like maybe 2 months later for a show at Hotel Vegas with my buddy's band. And it was just like so like whatever, but I was trying, you know. And I probably didn't do any posters till like 2014 after that. And then I just started making posters for my friends' bands and for like the light shows that I was doing. So,
But what would be the difference between your very first attempt and your most recent? What would you say besides quality?
The first one was all digital.
Okay.
So it was all like digital fonts and like warping text and no idea what to do like with my hand, you know. And then the last one I did, it's all just like heavily illustrated.
Yeah.
You know,
more of a human touch.
Yeah, definitely more of a human touch. And like the main thing is like my learning of lettering over the years. It was just something that I organically kind of just started kind of like trying to get better at.
It's infinite.
But I'm just realizing how much I like don't know and how much I got to learn. And I'm really just in such a premature stage of like where I want my art to be, really. It's still like I'm just like, okay, I have so much to get better at, you know. And I want to continue to make better work. I don't want my work to like peak or anything. Like I want it to get better constidently.
It's exciting knowing that it's going to, and you're so young. You're like 33 or something like
34.
that. 34. You have so much ahead of you. Do people ever freak out about how young you are versus your taste?
I don't think I'm that young.
Well, I mean, you know, compared to the people who were alive in the 60s and who were influenced by that stuff more directly.
I don't think anybody freaks out about it. I think a lot of us in our generation are interested in what people in the 60s and 70s did because the quality of everything they did was so much better. And if we don't like look towards like their work, then we're lost because it hasn't gotten any better.
Wow.
Maybe like in the past
you heard
decade,
it here, folks.
maybe in the past decade, there's been some really cool stuff that's come out musically and art wise and stuff, but I don't think it ever has or will top.
A lot of people your age don't know anything about Fillmore posters. I'll just say that.
That's terrible.
I mean, it's true. And yeah, like you said, people should know history.
Chet Helms, who was from Austin, is the one who started the Family Dog in San Francisco, and they were some of the people who made some of the most events and stuff out there, and just had so much influence on the culture and like getting people involved to make art and light shows and posters and great music and there's a connection, you know, between Austin and San Francisco.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting that. You know, like that actually happened.
Yeah.
When you actually read about it, it is so bizarre and so out of this world that it makes me, feel like our lives are just so drab compared to like the kind of things that these people lived through and saw, and like, you know, the stuff they created was mythical because they were going through mythical times, and so are we right now, I think, but in a different way. You know, it's not like as exciting or inspirational. It's just more like insane. You know? Exciting,
insane, chaotic.
Yeah, chaotic.
And let's not forget that perhaps opportunities for people with names like ours or complexions like ours may not have been what they are now. So it's almost like a push and pull of what was better or worse.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole thing that I think about all the time. I just wish I could have been there for like even a week to just know what it was like, because I'm constantly just this one thing in my head that I think about every day that's like, I will never know what the world was like just 50 years ago. And like, that kills me because it's not going to get any closer to that time. And like, I just feel like
Damn it.
It was so freaking cool back then. I'm sure
How
there
do
was
we
also
get-
a lot of terrible things that we don't realize that we,
Absolutely.
like now we have so many freedoms in other ways and stuff like that.
Hard.
Uh-oh. Get off.
Is everything cool? Yeah.
The thing that worries me the most is that we are losing locations to get together and have communities of creative output and real, tight connections and stuff like that. And it's happening like everywhere, I feel. And things like DIY spaces are gone. Like the communal kind of vibe is like leaving this town, and it was one of the last ones with this kind of tight communal feeling. Creativity is like dwindling because of that. People are working more and they're paying more to live, so they have less time to worry about art and make good art. And then people are also, I think, the attitude of like, well, nobody cares about what I do, right? Like, who cares about my art? Or so I'm not even gonna make it. And it's like, I think that's so terrible, because I know people who actually have like sketchbooks full of beautiful stuff, and they don't want to share, and that's okay. I also like feel that way, but man, what the world needs is more creativity and more people to care about creativity, because it is like the last thing we have left.
Oh,
I think
love that.
be part of a community also, if that's like through art and through connection through music or whatever it is that you do. Like
My next question was, what is your advice for new freelancers? And I guess you just kind of answered it too. It's just keep practicing.
my advice to freelancers is just do. So if I think that the poster is a great way to get your art out there. So like if you have friends who play music, do posters for them for like whatever they want to give you, $20, 50. I used to do them for $20.
Yeah.
So like, just do a bunch of them and just get better at them and get the work out there. And then, just if that's what you really want to do, just keep doing it and you'll get better. And like you will get seen if you're caring and you're, putting care into what you do and love and stuff. And so, just don't be discouraged. Like the social media is like amazing tool.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's how my
use
podcast
Instagram.
got on a network. That's how I've gotten tons of art jobs.
That's how you reached out to me. I mean,
I know. If it weren't for Instagram, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I literally just this lady around town who's like been an awesome supporter of the music scene, Michelle Maz. She was like, dude, get an Instagram back in 2018. And I was like, why would I get an Instagram? Like, I don't care. I'm not a social media person, And then she was like, dude, I'm telling you, just put your posters up there and people will start hitting you up and you can start charging them. Sure, whatever. And I just did it. And then within like a couple of weeks, I had people already hitting me up and being like, how much do you charge? And I just kept charging up and up. And then as I got more comfortable with like me as an artist, of like being like, oh, my work is actually worth something, I was like charging more. And it's just been a slow uphill price charge thing. And like now I have like a minimum and stuff, but I would do it for whatever. Like, oh, you got $50, cool. Like,
or a list spot,
or just like I still randomly do a $50 poster, like the one that for our band and stuff. But
like value is a murky thing sometimes. Of like,
you have to be really aware of like how good your work is. Like you can't like undervalue yourself, but also you can't overvalue yourself. You can't,
there's a lot of artists out there.
There's a lot of talented people out there now. Like I'm so blown away by so many people's work nowadays. Me honestly, too. Like I know I just said all that stuff, but there's actually so much good poster art and album art that people have been making for the past like 5, 6, 7 years. 8 years. It's just like I feel like the pandemic kind of ramped that up.
Yeah.
And so that's actually good. And I hope the same is happening with music, and I just don't know about it because like a lot of the music I hear is pretty mediocre compared to like the stuff I really like, you know, from like older times. But I do hear like an amazing band every once in a while.
Every
like
now and then, right?
Yeah.
What about album covers? Have you done them? Is that your next step? I could see that for you, but
I have done album covers.
Okay.
I don't feel very comfortable doing album covers because I feel like my art is more transitory or transient or just
Okay.
like not immediate, you know?
Yeah.
It's not so much eternal. Like I feel like I should work towards making more of that. But I do a lot of album art, but it's not like, I don't think it's my forte, you know?
okay.
Like I also feel like album art doesn't necessarily need to be something that's like just illustrated or design. It could be like photographs or all kinds of things. And so I feel very weird about it. And I just did an album art for a band in Barcelona called Magic Brother Mystic Sister. They're really good. And I felt a lot of pressure because they are actually one of the best bands that I've heard in a really long time. And they recorded this album like 10 years ago.
Wow.
And they just weren't able to get to it because of like personal stuff. And like they're about to put it out, and it's 2 LPs and it's like 21 songs. And I was just like,
Wow.
I don't even know what to do because they are so good. And like, it's the job that I've like spent the most time like working with somebody. And we had so many FaceTime calls for like hour-long FaceTime calls from Spain, you know, like for 2 months, and we're still not fully finished. We got the first album done, and like it's being printed and stuff like that.
Cool.
But it's also, it ended up being not my art. It ended up being like a collage of images from like things that were sourced at esoteric things and stuff that were just kind of put into a layout that they kind of came up with. And I ended up like not doing anything. And I was like, don't even put album art by me, just put album layout. Because there's no artist here. The artist is like ancient manuscripts, fucking just like astrological and tarot things, and
but layout is design.
It was, And so that was like the first time I've ever done something like that, where I was just doing a full on like layout of an album and like, you know, with like gatefolds and stuff like that.
Cool. I want to see it.
It's like 2 connecting gatefolds that open up into like a quadruple thing.
What? And you don't know Barney Bubbles?
And yeah, but I mean, it was a pain in the butt, not gonna lie. But I hope that they're happy, and I think they are. You know, I'm not really an album art person. I don't feel I would like to.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's like higher principles to album art and design principles and just like thematic principles and stuff like that. And I'm more of a free form artist.
Okay.
So I feel more comfortable doing things for like an event or something like that, or
ephemera, maybe.
Right? I'm just like more of like an ephemera artist. I'm not really, but I do want to work towards becoming a finer art artist. You know, I'm not there yet. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny because album design can be so many different things.
It can also be really simple. It could just be font, little thing in the center, maybe a border, and.
But that takes a designer's eye to do it.
Right.
And to say, like, this actually is the vibe, you know, because it, for me, needs to match the music in some way.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
That is, absolutely. Yeah. So that's cool that you have so much respect for it and that you kind of are taking a step back. But what I was going to say is maybe you just needed to take psychedelics to get into
I think that, you know, if we're on the topic, like I will say that the psychedelics are a really interesting thing because when I stop taking them, I struggle. Like I sit in front of a blank piece of paper. What the heck am I going to do?
You need that download.
And when I'm doing the psychedelics, it's not like I'm doing the work on psychedelics, but when I'm like doing psychedelics in my life, like the work just comes out of me. Like I'll just do psychedelics like a couple days before or something, and then I'll just go to do a poster and it'll just come out of me like I can already see it in my head and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like a receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that way.
And when you don't take the psychedelics, you're kind of just on your own.
Yeah.
Like you don't have like a divine channel like working through
know.
you. You know what I mean?
Scary.
So I also feel like that's why the work of the 60s is so good because I feel like most of them were on psychedelics.
Yep.
And I don't know if any of them weren't. or at least at some point did them, but like
They better have been.
but that's the whole thing. Honestly, it's a secret language, and
Yeah.
you're trying to just continue that. And then when you stop taking psychedelics, you're really kind of just doing the whole art a disfavor. I'm not encouraging drug use, but I'm also saying like you should try it sometime if you haven't. Because
I'll encourage it. I'm encouraging it.
I just did a poster for the Texas Mushroom Conference, which is the second
nice.
annual one, and they're doing like a meeting about like talking about psilocybin and like how important it is for so many things, and how it can help people in so many ways. And I guess I should be an advocate for it, because I would say without psychedelics, I wouldn't have ever been doing what I did, from light shows to experimental filmmaking to psychedelic posters, or getting into design and stuff like that. I think the psychedelics help you make a connection with your mind and heart, and like external and internal influences, and just what's going on inside of you versus like your output and stuff like that. And it gets you in a kind of touch with something that it's actually helping you like make better work.
I feel like my ancestors are helping me when I'm tapped in.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. There's like a guiding feeling happening.
That's dope. Yeah. I feel like that's it's interesting, the esoteric side of this, like it's something that I feel like is very disconnected from like an education on graphic design, or what most people are striving to do. Like the esoteric connection, I feel like is like been lost for the most part from like the older stuff. Because if you look at this work, it really does feel like esoteric work. It feels like illustrations from like a sacred text or something sometimes, And so I feel like there's that aspect that needs to be brought back, and I'm working on doing that. It's just tough because it's like it has to become like devotional. It's like you have to almost get in a religious state of mind.
I think it's worth that. I mean, people worship way less cool things.
For sure, yeah. And I'm working on that too. Like I'm working on just my devotion to like the pen and paper and just like the strokes and everything, because like I started using finer pens and like changing the pressure that I do on the paper and stuff like that, like those subtleties, and I've noticed it's making a big difference.
Oh,
in, like, what
wow.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say stay away from Illustrator. You don't need to do that. Keep doing what you're doing would be what I would say. I don't know. I like it.
I use Illustrator for line tracing. That's it. Or image tracing.
It has jobs that it does well.
And I tried using an iPad and it was impossible, and I do not recommend it. And
the quality is bad.
The learning curve seems insane, and just working on that little screen is impossible for me, like zooming in and stuff. I need the paper in front of me.
Procreate, yeah.
So if anybody's having trouble with like Procreate and Illustrator, just switch to paper and pen and scan it and just do like image tracing. And also,
and then clean up all the points, because it makes too many points.
Yeah. And then also the other thing that I want to bring up with this is just like how stuff is getting overly digital, and like if you do it, cool, that's awesome. But like there's something about the digitalness that kind of like lacks like a certain kind of quality. And especially now with AI, the AI is what I was trying to transition to, that we have to stay away from AI and we have to stay away from anything that looks like AI, because we don't want to be confusing people and making them think that, oh, maybe this is an AI or something. Like we really have to make our work really feel human now. Like that's what I'm thinking, because now we're battling against a thing that can just generate art. So we have to kind of like try to bring back that humanness to art. And I feel like the best way to do it is through physical means, paper and pencil, but it's also great to incorporate both, like digital stuff and hand-drawn stuff. And
it's like acoustic versus electric, instruments together sound best when there's both.
Right.
My point is, I live in Seattle. It's like the video game capital. It just seems like everyone works for video game design. And they're I feel like their work is where AI is pulling from a lot of the times.
Oh.
And it's so weird how video games look like movies now or something. Yeah. Like, it's insane. It's
wild.
People made that. I can't even understand it. But that is considered art it's weird. I don't know. It's like, what do you do with that? It has to be digital. It's like, ugh. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a point where I draw the line on calling something art,
Yeah, totally.
And it's like that stuff just feels more like, I don't know, some Matrix thing than like art,
It's like a choose your own adventure.
I feel like you're just like offending like dead artists when you know, like Caravaggio would slay your head off if you.
There's a video game about that. No, I'm kidding. Ew, can you imagine? Okay, so I ask all of my guests this question. It seems like, how long have we been recording? It's been an hour, right? I ask them a couple things. First one is, since you're a poster designer, what's the first poster you remember, and how, like the first poster that really mesmerized you and you were just like blown away and had an effect on you? Do you remember that? And I should have sent you this via email before, so you'd be ready, but I'm sorry.
I mean, I think you said album cover.
Yeah, so answer that. Either one. Yeah.
Album cover for sure was the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks, because like I was a 12-year-old kid and I saw that album and I was like, I need to listen to this. Mm-hmm. And
Jamie Reed.
There's two variations. There's like the pink one with the green, and there's the yellow one with the black and pink. And I think that's like one of the best album covers of all time.
R.I.P. Jamie Reed. Yeah.
Sweet. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know who made it.
Yeah.
And then, so that had an impact on me, and it like got me into punk. You know, and that changed my life, because punk was kind of like the thing that kind of got me in touch with myself when I was like 12, 13, and like I broke away from like the mainstream music that was being fed to me as a child.
Yeah.
I just decided that I hated music, and then my buddy showed me Sex Pistols and other stuff, and then I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then that album forever will be like etched in. I remember even making I burned it, and I did the art with a pink highlighter. Freaking did the whole CD, and then I redid the thing with Nevermind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, right. And that's probably the first thing I ever did. Like,
wow.
Like, and poster, I don't know, probably some Victor Moscoso thing, you know, like probably some Fillmore poster that I saw once in a book or something, like some bright colored, like, you know, super bright thing, just like, whoa, this is wild, you know?
Wow. I love the Sex Pistols answer too, because it was such a doorway for so many things to so many people. Like,
oh yeah. I based my whole persona when I was like 13 off of Johnny Rotten, you know. At one point my mom was just like, why do you have to look like such a bum? And I would just want to buy like clothes at Goodwill and stuff,
and you were like, oi mom.
I was like, don't you know, like, it's just hilarious, because I was like, at that point I realized I didn't want to be like everybody else, you know. I just was lucky to have met some like the punk kids in my middle school that were like I just became friends with, and I didn't feel like I fit in with them at first, but then I realized they were my people, and they were the ones who nicknamed me Fez and stuff, you know.
Oh wow.
And just, you know, introduced me to all this freaking amazing music that they would burn in CDs for me. The turning point in my life was when me and 3 other buddies decided to open up a DIY venue in 2017. We just found a space and we just went for it and did it. And they're like, well, do you guys want to commit to do this? And I was like, well, the only way it's going to stand out is if like we do a light show every night and like I start doing posters like for every show to promote them, because like we got to stand out from the stuff that people are doing around town. And so I was doing a light show. I built a light booth, like big old light booth that could fit like 5 people up there, and it was like above the crowd. And,
oh wow!
And I had, like,
usually people are just down with everyone.
And I had like 10 projectors up there with like, you know, slide projectors and overheads and digital stuff and like effects projectors.
VHS.
And, everything, color wheels and stuff, and just all kinds of stuff. And so I did hundreds of those shows. I would do them like 3 or 4 times a week, and I would do 3 or 4 posters a week. And I would only get like $20 for each poster, because it was like our own business, and we were barely making any money. So like that's all I could pay myself, and it was enough for me to make my rent and live and stuff. But I was pumping out 3 or 4 posters a week, and I just didn't care what I was doing. Like I would just start wherever the heck my mind went to, and I did not think about it, and I just finished it and sent it off, and they would just post it. And
what was this place?
It was called the Electric Church.
Okay.
And it has a weird history, because the first 3 years were awesome, and then when the pandemic hit, the other guys took over and they kind of turned it into a sleazy nightclub, and it just ended. So it was like 3 years of like the bastardization of the baby that I created with my buddy Levi. And if they watch this, that's hilarious, because like they should hear that. But
you never know.
Anyways, but that place was like the dearest thing that I, you know, ever like did in my life. And,
I can relate.
And that's where I got this thing going, you know, because that's the only people that nobody ever hit me up to do posters. It was just like people just started seeing the work I was pumping out. And they're like, whoa, like, you know, so that's how I actually got this whole thing started. It was because of the venue, because people have asked me this before, and they're like, how did you get like this audience or whatever? And it was like literally from like running a venue that was like getting a lot of attention in town because of like we were doing something completely different from anything anybody was doing anywhere in the world.
But it's the same overlap of people who would be your audience for your poster art.
Yeah,
too.
it was like the people who were into that kind of stuff, and they all just found out about it through overtime and stuff, and then they were like, who's the one making the posters? And then I just started linking it to the Instagram that I made in 2018. And so that's how I ended up doing so many posters. I did like maybe 500 posters for the Electric Church.
What?
And then like I haven't even shared half of them. Like they're just stuff that I don't even feel super proud of, but some of them are actually really, really cool because they were just like unhinged, you know. It was just, and I was doing psychedelics a lot in that time. So like everything was just coming out of me, and it was just survival. It was just like necessity and the need to stand out from anything anybody was doing around town. And then actually that influenced a bunch of people to start doing poster art and a bunch of people to start doing light shows. And the venues around town started booking the young bands that they weren't booking before, that we started booking, and started bringing people out, and they started booking them, and they started letting them work at their venues. And actually a lot of things changed from that. And
yeah,
you know, a lot of bands were formed in that place. There was open jams every Wednesday. There's a lot of things that happened in that space, but unfortunately it got turned into this really ugly thing. And I'm glad it's over, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it was homegrown, psychedelic. Like we were trying to be like the Vulcan Gas Company in the 60s. And the landlord was actually the nephew of the guy who rented out the Vulcan Gas Company to the hippies in the 60s. So that was like why he let us do it.
So many connections.
It's crazy. And then I got to meet the old Vulcan Gas Company light show guy. He showed up one time and gave me his old projectors, and he's like, you're never going to see me again. But we talked for like an hour or two, and he saw my stuff, and he was like, this is cool as heck. And then, you know, his name was David Martinez. And Jim Franklin knew him too, so we've talked about him. He told me how he used to bring girls up to his booth at the Vulcan Gas Company, and he had a little ladder that you would have to climb up to a platform, and like all these things that I'm just like, I'm so glad I got to be a part of that history that a lot of people have like watered down, I think, and they don't really know what like the OG before Armadillo, you know, like Vulcan Gas, hippie shit, like acid shit, and mescaline and all that. That's what they were doing mostly out here, and and so, you know, it's cool that I've been able to do lights for Rocky Erickson's 70th birthday. I got to meet David Martinez. I hung out with Jim Franklin. I've met George Kinney from Golden Dawn.
Whoa, man!
And like all these like. I've, you know, met the Shivas Headbands guys, and like
I feel like they passed a torch to you, like they kind of
it just naturally happened, you know. We just kind of naturally like grabbed it and just like kept it going, because that's what we have been about for like over a decade, and we just wanted to like remind people where the whole culture here comes from, and you know, it's something that a lot of people like don't appreciate here, and I think the only place where people still appreciate this is in like places in Europe and in San Francisco, and maybe in LA a little bit, but Austin does not care about psychedelia, and they don't care. They think it's a joke, and they think it's just phony.
It's changed a lot here, the vibe.
Yeah, it's very modern and poppy now. It's not like heady and old school and like, you know.
I remember when it was weird. I grew up in the 80s here.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine.
I was born in the 70s. That's how
so
old
cool.
I am.
Holy crap.
I remember the Carter administration.
You
I'm
must
old.
have seen the coolest part of Austin.
I did. I saw a lot of cool stuff. And I'm grateful for that. Everything, though, is impermanent. Everything's finite, and it is tough. But I think so. I'm glad you got to do the Electric Church, I want to say. I think you have at least one more Electric Church in you. You have some project. You know what I mean? Like something big.
So this is what I'm actually like
community
thinking about.
Involved.
That's what I was actually talking to my buddy about yesterday. And we're like, if everyone could toss their ego aside a little bit and give it to the community and like make like a more tight communal like and no ego thing. It's just, I think that's not going to happen at this point though. I think it could only happen if everyone's like doing psychedelics like in the 60s and stuff. And I just feel
Zendik
like,
Farms. Remember Zendik Farms?
I don't know. I just don't know if things can actually be like that again. I think we're all going into our own separate paths.
Yeah, that's true.
We should really just focus on the better things that we can do for the world, like communities and creativity. And it sounds redundant and cheesy, but it's the truth. It's like the only thing that's ever made any change is like getting people together, you know?
United. Absolutely. And that's what I try to do with this podcast, is at least try to develop an online community, because it's a really nerdy global community of ours of, music design.
Yeah.
It's a global community. So it's not enough to keep asking people to arrive at a physical space anymore, because people are divided anyway. So I guess I wanted to lean into that.
You do have a good point about like what you're talking about. Like there is a really nice community like worldwide right now. Like I mean, it's crazy how like all of the poster artists seem to be like connected through there, and like we all like talk every once in a while, and like just through the Instagram, or we've actually met. Like Taylor Rushing has a house over here.
Yeah, really?
Like, just down the street.
That's the other person I wanted to talk to. That's a great Instagram account to follow.
Oh, folks. Yeah, Taylor Rushing, yeah.
T Rushing.
TW Rushing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's something we have now that, like, is great. I mean, that's, like, the positive side of this whole thing is that we can create a lot of just waves through just posts on the internet.
Yeah.
And just, like, through getting to know each other, like, through these kinds of connections of, like, just things that wouldn't have happened if, like, the internet didn't exist.
Or like, it's so stupid how like social media is so dumb, but also really important.
Right. It's so dumb and so like important. Yeah.
So vital for artists. Oh my God, it's insane. Thank you so much, Fez, for talking to me, and happy Groundhog Day, by the way.
Oh, of course, yeah. And thanks,
this
guys.
Lovely Groundhog Day in Austin, Texas. What do you want people to know? Where can they find you and buy your merch and stuff?
Well, I have an Instagram. It's FEZ MORENO. Sure, I mean, that's already written somewhere, but I don't want to say anything too inspirational because it's cheesy. Just don't settle for surface.
Do more drugs.
Go for the deep end.
I interrupted you.
No, I mean, it works.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah.
Bye, Fez. Happy Groundhog's Day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Do you want the mic up there, or do you want it like low like this?
I want it like Lemmy, like I'm
like
singing.
Lemmy. All right, so that's cool, right?
Kidding.